Classic line in the Australian film The Castle is about treasured possessions, about going straight to the pool room. This, they say, is going straight to the pool room, that ideal place to showcase triumphs and coveted possessions. When the Philistines captured the Ark of the Covenant, they took it straight to their pool room, their house of Dagon, not to showcase the Ark, but instead to place the God of Israel subordinate to their God Dagon. But let us rewind, because how did the Ark end up here? Well, Israel was in conflict with Philistine and the results were disastrous. And so Israel, to sway the way this war was going, they physically took the Ark of the Covenant, that is, the presence of God, into battle. So the Ark was to be Israel's trump card. Arguably, they were trying to manipulate the presence of God for their gain. How often do we attempt to control God? To use God for our benefit, or perhaps for our own glorification? You see, there are two false narratives here. One, that the people thought that they could control the presence of God. And two, a false confidence in what people could achieve on their own accord. At the same time, the Philistines, they feared the God that has come in 1 Samuel 4:7 when they see the ark. That same God who struck down Egypt and freed Israel from captivity. And their response is, well, take courage, men. Do not be afraid. Do not be captives yourself. In chapter 4, verse 9. So, Philistine, they overcome Israel in this battle. They end up capturing the ark. And so Israel ends up lamenting. The glory of God has departed from Israel, for the ark of God has been captured. Chapter 4, verses 21 to 22. And so with possession of the ark, possession of the presence of God, the Philistines take the ark and place it in their trophy room, the house of Dagon. The idea was to demonstrate the authority of Dagon over that of the captured God. It was to humiliate the God of Israel. Yet two things happen. So when the Philistines rise for worship, they find their god Dagon fallen face down on the ground before the ark. This idol fallen face down on the ground before the ark. After returning Dagon to his place, they physically had to put him back. The following morning they return again to find their god Dagon fallen face downward on the ground before the ark. Only this time, the head and the hands of Dagon have been cut off. What might this demonstrate? Well, very clearly, God and idol cannot sit side by side. God and idol cannot live side by side. For us, that means examining our lives and seeing what idols we need to cut off. Head and hands. What idols do we need to cut off? The Philistines see their error. They see the God who struck Egypt is now actually hitting them with great affliction. Ashdod, Gath, and Ekron, all these places are all afflicted when the ark is in their company. And so the Philistines decide to return the ark to Israel because they cannot, after this 7 months of God making his authority known, they cannot keep up with the affliction that is being caused. But God is making himself known, not by the hands of man. He's been captured out of that, but by his own power that is afflicting those who are not of his own. So what began as people trying to use the presence of God quickly escalates to God's bowing down to the presence of the one true God. And it quickly turns to a demonstration of the presence and power of God, not of human hands. We learn that the presence of God is not ours to manipulate to our will or even to our timing. Instead, we are invited to be participants in his kingdom when we create space and seek relationship, that God may work through our lives. And we will continue to see that as we continue through Samuel, seeing the work of Saul and the work particularly of King David.